Mystery surrounds the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. A Boeing 777 bound for Beijing took off from Kuala Lumpur on March 8, 2014. There will be strange happenings, lies, and the disappearance of 227 passengers and 12 crew members in the following hours. There would be no trace of the jet left for investigators to pursue except for phantom signals and gaps in the data. Search teams looked all over the seafloor and water of the Indian Ocean for the lost plane for nearly 3 years. The fate of the 239 people on Flight 370 has long been a mystery, but recent discoveries and hypotheses may finally help solve the case. We need to start from the beginning if we want to comprehend what happened and properly evaluate the new information. Let's rewind to the very moment that Flight 370 took off and began its irregular flight path that would eventually lead to its disappearance. It is 12:41 a.m. on March 8, 2014, just 2 hours before Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanishes. The Boeing 777-200ER has a carpeted aisle, and the flight attendants go up and down it to make sure everyone is buckled up. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah examines the plane one more time before takeoff and gets the okay from his first officer, Fariq Abdul Hamid. The pilots receive word from the control tower that it is safe to take off. The jet lurches forward as Captain Zahari accelerates the throttles. Passengers are pushed back into their seats as the plane accelerates down the runway. Since it is so early in the morning, the vast majority of the flight's occupants are sound asleep. A baby smiles and coos on its mother's lap as passengers peer out the windows at the airport's neon signs. After taking off, Flight 370 climbs into the sky. It takes around 6 hours to fly to Beijing, so passengers close their shades and get comfortable for the trip. What nobody knows is that when morning comes, everyone on board Flight 370 will vanish. 1:01 a.m. A little over an hour and 40 minutes till the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. At 35,000 feet, 10,700 meters, the plane is at its maximum cruising height. Turning off the fasten seatbelt sign, the flight attendants get to work on the guests' refreshments. Cabin service should be light since this is an overnight flight. Some travelers stretch as they walk to the restroom. The Chinese city of Beijing is filled with businessmen whose faces are lit up by their laptop screens. In addition to the roar of the plane's engines, the snoring of sleeping passengers may also be heard. The signal from Flight 370 is picked up by radar stations on the ground. This is a regular situation. Soon, Flight 370 will be leaving Malaysian territory and entering Vietnamese airspace. This morning's early hours feel like any other morning. 1:07 a.m. The aircraft communication addressing and reporting system from Flight 370 is received by the Malaysian flight tower 1 hour and 33 minutes before the plane vanishes. This communications array routinely updates the plane's location and the status of many vital systems. The ACARS has completed its final transmission to the traffic control center. Someone has disabled the ACAR system to steer the plane in an unexpected direction. The control tower won't be alerted for another half an hour. The radar stations in the area are no longer receiving data from Flight 370 because its aircraft communication addressing and reporting system has been disabled. There is no indication that anything is amiss on the ground. Thus, no one there is aware that the system has been shut down. But whether or not the ground crew is aware of it, something odd is happening on board Flight 370. It is unknown which of the two pilots is responsible for turning off the ACAR system, but the next several hours beginning at 1:19 a.m. will be filled with strange occurrences. There are 1 hour and 20 minutes until the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Flight 370's captain communicated with Malaysian air traffic controllers. The voice on the headset sounds like First Officer Fariq Abdul Hamid. Even though the ACARS on the plane is disabled, he doesn't seem concerned or like anything is wrong. After the message is sent, a strange chain of events begins. But this does not prove that Fariq tampered with the system or is aware of the problem. Just before entering Vietnamese airspace, the voice concludes a short message with, "All right, good night," indicating that he is signing off. Air traffic controllers don't give a hoot about the message because pilots often use "good night" to transfer communications from one airspace to another. As jets exit their area, air traffic controllers hear the remark hundreds of times per week. This time, though, Good night will indeed be the final words ever said by the people on board Flight 370. 1:21 a.m. The transponder was turned off shortly after Flight 370 entered Vietnamese airspace over the South China Sea, as it was continuously updating radar stations with the flight number, altitude, speed, and heading of the jet. In comparison to disabling ACAR, using a transponder is a breeze. The enormous Boeing 777 disappears into thin air without its transponder turned on. The radar screens of the traffic controllers are filled with numerous tiny dots. One, though, is noticed by them. There is no flight number, and no pertinent information is being transmitted. They are keeping a tight check on the plane to see what it is and why it isn't sending any data. At this point, nobody really cares too much except that something strange is occurring. A Thai military base's radar surveillance soldier picks up on the anomaly. An unidentified plane is making its way toward the airfield. The lack of clandestine operations that evening is grounds for alarm. He reports this to the CO, and they continue to monitor the mysterious plane. When the clock struck 1:21 a.m. and 1:28 a.m., there is currently no evidence to suggest that the mysterious plane being tracked by radar in Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia is in fact Flight 370. No transponder has been activated yet. The mysterious object, however, begins to abruptly alter its course. The plane abruptly reverses course and flies in the opposite direction, as recorded by a radar sensor in Thailand's southern Surat Thani region. There is no evidence to suggest that Flight 370 of Malaysia Airlines is the unidentified aircraft on their screens at this time. In the early stages of the hunt for the missing airliner, this lack of assurance will cause valuable time to be wasted. 1:30 a.m. The radar blip from the unidentified aircraft vanished suddenly from Subang, outside of Kuala Lumpur. Over the waters of the Gulf of Thailand, it mysteriously disappeared. The plane was last seen at a location near 065515 north and 1033443 east. It seems the SATCOM system has been tampered with, albeit the details are unclear. 1:37 a.m. Military and civilian aviation radars in Malaysia once again pick up the mysterious plane. Previously heading southwest over the Malay Peninsula, the plane suddenly changed its path to fly northwest over the Strait of Malacca. The ACAR's reading from Flight 370 has been overdue, and Malaysian air traffic controllers are aware of this. It was scheduled for transmission at 1:07 a.m., exactly 30 minutes after the previous message was sent. A problem has been detected by the automated system and is being relayed to the traffic controllers. At this point, they suspect that the unidentified plane they've been watching is actually Flight 370, but there's no way to be sure without coordinating with numerous other organizations. Investigators now say that shutting off the ACARs would be a crucial component of the hijackers' or terrorists' intentions if the plane were to be a target. Anomalies in the aircraft systems cannot be identified from the ground if ACAR's data is not transmitted. Although turning off the transponder is more obvious, the ACAR's data would have given air traffic control and anyone else keeping tabs on the fly considerably more insight into what was happening with the plane at the time. 25 minutes before Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappears, around 2:15 a.m. military radars in Malaysia continue to show the unidentified plane, even though civilian radars have stopped following it. The plane travels over Pulau Perak, a small island in the Strait of Malacca. Hundreds of miles off course, it keeps going in a westerly direction. 2 hours and 22 minutes before Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanishes over the Indian Ocean, a few radar stations still show an unidentified blip. The aircraft lost touch with a Malaysian military radar station over the Andaman Sea, where it had been traveling west. This is the last time anyone will be able to track the plane. It will be another 18 minutes before Malaysia Airlines officially confirms that Flight 370 has vanished. Flight 370's ACARs failed to send data, telemetry was lost, and the plane disappeared from radar. It's unclear what the airline did in those moments, but it's likely that air traffic controllers and their superiors went into damage control mode to keep things quiet until they had a better handle on the situation. March 8, 2014, 2:40 a.m. Malaysia Airlines has been informed by air traffic controllers that Flight 370 has vanished. The airline is putting in every possible effort to track down the missing plane. They ask for assistance from the Malaysian military and other regional groups to locate their missing airliner. To aid with the hunt for and recovery of the missing airliner, The Malaysian Armed Forces have sent over all raw radar data they possess to US and British officials. The search for the missing Boeing 777 is underway. The last known location of Flight 370 was in the Andaman Sea. Thus, search ships and planes have been dispatched there. The initial search for Flight 370 will begin in an hour. In an effort to contact the missing plane, military experts and air traffic controllers use every available communication method. To try to make sense of the issue, Malaysia Airlines contacts air traffic controllers in neighboring countries including Vietnam and Thailand. A strange picture of the situation emerges from the data gathered. No one knows what happened to the plane, and nothing makes sense. Everyone needs to know that the passengers and personnel are safe. Malaysia Airlines has issued a code red to any and all organizations that may have information that could lead to the plane's recovery. Search operations and other emergency preparations are initiated. When asked why it took more than an hour to issue such an order, the airline claimed it was still looking for the missing plane to make sure it was gone for good. In any case, an emergency was declared, and it remains unclear if Malaysia Airlines' tardy sharing of information with other organizations was due to malicious intent or simple ineptitude. Rescue operations will continue for at least a few hours. Several groups are combing through the data to determine a possible flight path for the plane. Passengers in Beijing wait for their jet to arrive at the terminal as rescue crews prepare for the worst at 6:30 a.m., 3 hours and 50 minutes after Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanishes. Although Flight 370 has been marked as arriving, the jet has not yet touched down. Passengers are getting antsy as they wait for an update on the whereabouts and reason for the delay of their jet. Except for the agencies and organizations directly participating in the search for the plane, Malaysia Airlines has not provided any updates about the disappearance of Flight 370. As of 7:24 a.m., there is still no sight of Flight 370 or any indication of what went wrong. Members of missing parties who were expected to arrive and check in an hour ago have left their families worried. The airline has been approached but has stayed silent up to this point. Malaysia Airlines has made a public statement on its official Facebook page. When this occurs, there is widespread terror and bewilderment among those whose loved ones were on board the plane. People all over the world learned of the effort to locate the missing jet. The fateful and unexplained disappearance of Flight 370 has everyone waiting with bated breath for answers. 8:11 a.m. Time, 5 hours, 31 minutes after the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. There's an odd occurrence. A satellite in Earth's orbit might try to make contact with a plane flying below it by means of a handshake or electronic connection. The satellite keeps track of each attempt to communicate with the jet and reports its findings to a central database. Due to a failure of the onboard communication systems, the handshake is not completed. However, once this information is revealed, it will serve as a crucial hint for rescue teams looking for the plane. The plane has not yet landed. Flight 370's location can be narrowed down to 2 possible areas based on the satellite's location and other criteria. However, since the plane is obviously still operating, the final destination of where the aircraft would touch down will need to be extrapolated. With the limited information available at the outset of the emergency, the initial search for Flight 370 had begun in the South China Sea. This was later confirmed by the United States National Transportation Safety Board, the Federal Aviation Administration, and Britain's Air Accidents Investigation Branch. Search teams are dispatched to the Strait of Malacca and the Andaman Sea as new details emerge, including the location where the transponder had been turned off, confirming that the mysterious airliner being tracked by radar stations all morning was, in fact, Flight 370. Flight 370 vanished without a trace on March 15, 2014. 7 days later, on March 15, 2014, satellite data from the attempted handshake is uncovered, and search operations are redeployed to more hopeful locations. The search for Flight 370 was redirected to other areas after all relevant organizations were informed. Analysts now believe that there are only 2 possible trajectories for Flight 370 at the time the satellite attempted its handshake. A number of search missions have been launched in the Indian Ocean to the southwest of Australia, following the southern route the plane might have taken. Following the northern arc, another team looks through Southeast Asia, Western China, and Central Asia. Finding a crashed plane on dry land is challenging, but not quite as difficult as finding a plane at the bottom of the ocean. March 24, 2014, 16 days after Flight 370 vanished. Searchers still haven't found any wreckage along the northern arc. Inmarsat, the parent firm of the satellites, and the United Kingdom analyzed the data further. According to the findings of the Air Accidents Investigation Branch, Flight 370 most likely followed a southern arc before crashing in an isolated region of the Indian Ocean. Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak stated that the likelihood of any survivors from the airliner is extremely low. Hundreds of people's hopes have been dashed. April 6, 2014, 30 days after Flight 370 disappeared. An Australian ship sails through the waters of the Indian Ocean. However, the quest to understand what happened and deliver answers is not yet over. Flight 370 has been missing for weeks, and the search continues. A series of acoustic pings are suddenly picked up by the ship's equipment. They may have originated from the black box or flight recorder aboard the missing Boeing 777. Although it is impossible to pinpoint the exact location of the signals, search crews have been able to reduce their focus to an area of the ocean roughly 1,200 miles, or 2,000 kilometers, northwest of Perth, Australia. New information from Inmarsat suggested that another handshake between a satellite and Flight 370 had been initiated at 8:19 a.m. on March 8th. This second handshake lines up with the spot where the Australian ship is picking up the acoustic pings. Even after the signal is lost, robotic submarines are deployed to the area to search the ocean floor for any signs of wreckage. Unfortunately, by this point, the batteries within the black box are likely on their last legs. The pings were detected over a wide area, but their precise position could not be determined. Even though there is a lot of water to cover, the subs keep looking. There are no hits from the search. A man walks along the beach on the French island of Reunion on July 29, 2015, 1 year and 5 months after Flight 370 vanished. Post-mortem examinations revealed that a faulty wire in the ship's acoustic equipment may have been the source of the pings. He sees some trash on the beach. Because of the way the Indian Ocean's currents flow, trash floating at sea is a common sight on the island. But this situation is unique. It appears to be an airplane component. The man signals nearby residents, and they together deliver the rescued material to the authorities. The part is a right flaperon from a Boeing 777. The wreckage washed ashore some 3,700 kilometers, 2,300 miles, from where the search for the missing aircraft is being conducted in the Indian Ocean, and subsequent inspection by experts confirmed that it was indeed a piece of Flight 370. In the following 12 months, beachcombers in Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Madagascar, and Mauritius found an additional 26 pieces of debris. All those who made the discoveries say they were on board Flight 370. Although 17 objects are believed to be from Flight 370, only 3 have been definitely verified as coming from the missing plane. Experts examine the flap found in Reunion and conclude that it does not appear that the plane was guided into the ocean using a controlled descent. 2 pieces appeared to have come from the cabin interior, suggesting that the aircraft broke apart either before or during the crash into the ocean. It follows that Flight 370 must have crashed into the ocean's depths and perished there. In January 2017, 2 years and 10 months after Flight 370 vanished, the Malaysian, Australian, and Chinese governments announced they were ending the search for the aircraft. The information gathered from confirmed debris of the aircraft allowed the search area to be narrowed even further, as some parts of the Indian Ocean do not have the currents to carry wreckage all the way to Africa. After nearly 3 years of looking, they have found no trace of the missing plane. There is a lot of space in the Indian Ocean. The ocean floor can go down to depths of over 16,404 feet, more than 5,000 meters. The government of Malaysia has given Ocean Infinity, an American corporation, permission to continue the hunt. In July 2018, 3 years and 4 months after Flight 370 vanished, the Malaysian government released its final report on the disappearance. In May 2017, the Malaysian Transport Ministry formally declared it was time to halt all search activities. The ACARs and transponder systems wouldn't have gone down, thus it wasn't a mechanical breakdown, according to the investigation. Furthermore, the pilot's likely manual inputs were required to accomplish the irregular flying route. Though the official inquiry into what happened to Flight 370 has yielded few answers, theories about what may have happened to the plane have throughout the world. There was a surge of conspiracy theories on the web. There are entire books dedicated to the mystery of what happened to the Malaysia Airlines flight. The validity of the findings and their interpretation were discussed by experts. There is no conclusive evidence to determine what happened to Flight 370, according to most official sources. However, a lot has happened since the plane disappeared, and numerous theories have survived to 2023 that may provide some insight into this enigma. A lot of information is still lacking, but often the absence of information is the most compelling piece of proof. Let's take a deep dive into this mystery and look at some of the most popular hypotheses about what happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 in the year 2023. Conspiracies abounded when word initially broke of the unusual circumstances surrounding the plane's disappearance. Theories of alien abduction, sabotage, and military intervention saturated the internet. The possibility of Flight 370 landing in the Bermuda Triangle was discussed, and manipulated video footage was circulated. However, the most recent theory had a video and website that enabled hackers to steal people's money and identities. So even though these ideas may seem innocent at first, they should be treated with caution. As a result, this conspiracy has serious negative consequences. However, in 2023, many of